Bella's laugh wasn't loud. It was surgical, small, sharp, precise. The kind of sound that makes you realize too late that something vital inside you has just been cut. "You're just another guy Mom stayed with too long." She said it while twirling her pasta, not even looking at me, like it wasn't meant to be cruel, just true. Micah, her little brother, stopped chewing. His fork hovered midair, dripping sauce back onto his plate. He looked at me, then at his sister, then at his mother, waiting for someone to say something, waiting for the rules of the house to be enforced. But Lauren didn't move, didn't flinch. She just kept chewing, eyes on her plate like it held the answer to a question she didn't want to hear. She didn't speak, didn't scold, didn't correct. And that silence, her silence, was the loudest thing at the table. I sat there, 48 years old, in the home I helped build, staring at the fork in my hand like I didn't recognize it anymore. Like it had become a weapon and I hadn't noticed. I wasn't angry. I wasn't shocked. Not exactly. It was a different feeling. Something quieter. Something heavier. Like being buried alive under years of effort no one asked for but everyone expected. 9 years. 9 years of school runs and sick days, dental appointments and grocery runs. 9 years of patched bike tires, late-night trips to Walgreens, and standing in the back of school auditoriums while other kids' dads took the front row. 9 years of writing checks without ceremony, of standing in the shadows so someone else could shine. Bella was 8 when I moved in. She never called me Dad. That was fine. I never asked her to. Respect, though, that wasn't optional. That was the unspoken deal. I would show up. I would provide. I would take care of what needed taking care of. And in return, I would be seen. Not loved. Not praised. Just seen. That didn't seem like much to ask. The first year was hard. She'd say, "Troy, Mom's boyfriend," like it was a warning label. The second year, she'd call me Troy who fixes my bike. The third, she said Dad once by accident. Her eyes went wide. I didn't say a word. I just smiled and handed her a towel from the kitchen drawer. That moment stayed with me longer than it did with her, I think. I held onto it like it meant something more than what it was. Over the years, I became the man who made things happen in the background. The invisible scaffolding. The guy who knew which allergy form was due on which day. The man who remembered her shoe size when she didn't. I never missed a birthday even when her real father did. Especially then. I kept my phone on loud every other Sunday, the days he promised to call. The days she stared at the screen until her hope gave out. The days I would quietly distract her with a movie or an ice cream run, pretending not to notice the way she kept checking her messages. I stayed. I stayed when Lauren lost her job. I stayed through 2 of Micah's surgeries. I stayed when Bella told her friends I was just some guy who lives with us. I stayed even when Lauren stopped looking at me like a partner and more like a paycheck. I stayed. And tonight, I sat at the head of that table, the man who paid the mortgage, stocked the fridge, covered the tuition deposits, and I was laughed at. Reduced to a punchline. Another guy Mom stayed with too long. I looked at Lauren. She didn't even raise her eyes. Her silence was permission. Her silence was betrayal. A quiet nod to Bella that it was okay, that I could take it. I glanced at Micah. His eyes darted from face to face, unsure of the rules anymore. Waiting for someone to fix what had just broken. But no one moved. No one spoke. The sound of the clock ticking over the stove filled the space like a metronome counting down the seconds until I cracked. But I didn't. I didn't speak. I didn't scream. I didn't rise from my chair and flip the table or demand an apology. I just sat there, staring at my fork, at the tiny grooves where time and use had worn it smooth. At the reflection of a man who had given everything and now sat quietly watching it be dismissed. That's the thing no one tells you. The moment you stop being angry is the moment they should be afraid. Because anger still cares. Anger still believes there's something to fight for. But silence? Silence is what happens after the funeral. After the grief. After the realization that nothing is coming back. The meal continued. Plates were scraped. Glasses emptied. Bella kept talking, not to me, of course, and Lauren laughed once at something she said. I don't remember what. I wasn't there anymore. Not really. My body sat at the table, but my mind was in the garage, looking at the suitcases I hadn't used in years. My mind was already booking a different weekend. My mind was calculating costs, cancellations, remembering passwords to accounts I used to manage for her, for all of them. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake in bed next to the same woman who hadn't defended me, hadn't even acknowledged the blow. She slept easily. That was the part that hurt the most. It wasn't just Bella's words. It was Lauren's silence. It was the realization that I had spent nearly a decade investing in people who had already decided I was temporary. Like furniture, like wallpaper, like an ATM with a heartbeat. They didn't love me. They tolerated me. As long as I paid the bills, as long as I fixed the broken doorknobs, as long as I kept the engine of this house running in the background without asking for anything in return, I was fine. The moment I asked to be seen, laughed at. The next morning, I made coffee like I always did. Micah walked in and offered a quiet, "Hey." I nodded. Bella came in behind him, scrolling her phone. She didn't look up. Lauren followed last, tying her robe, asking if we had creamer. It was a normal morning. It was horrifying, because now I saw it for what it was. They'd built a life where I was expected to do everything and receive nothing, where they could insult me to my face and then hand me the grocery list. And for years I accepted it. Not anymore. As they sat eating breakfast, I opened my laptop. I didn't hide it. I didn't make a show of it either. I just logged in bank accounts, travel bookings, school portals. I started making changes. I didn't say a word. Silence had already been declared as the household language. And that's how it ended, not with a fight. Not with a broken plate or a slammed door. Just a laugh. A glance. A silence. And the slow, surgical cutting away of a man who finally realized he'd been bleeding for people who never even noticed he was wounded. I didn't argue that night. I didn't tell Bella she hurt me. I didn't ask Lauren why she stayed silent. That would have implied I still expected something from them. I didn't. Not anymore. I sat in the living room. Lights dimmed. The glow of my laptop screen the only thing illuminating the silence they'd all built around me. They thought I'd keep giving. Thought I'd absorb the disrespect like insulation, quietly, invisibly, indefinitely. They were wrong. I opened the cruise itinerary, Bella's graduation gift. A 7-day Caribbean loop. Balcony cabin. All-inclusive. I'd booked it 6 months early, upgraded the dining package, even ordered a fruit basket to be in the room when we arrived. She never thanked me. Not when the confirmation came in. Not when I printed the tickets and tucked them in an envelope marked for my girl's big day. That envelope was still in my drawer. I canceled her ticket. No hesitation. No warning. Just a few clicks. A polite apology from the system. And it was done. Then I upgraded mine. First-class suite. Private deck. Champagne on ice. I printed the new photo, me in sunglasses, drink in hand, the ocean behind me, smiling for no one, and slid it into the old envelope, taped it shut, left it on the counter, where she'd find it next to her keys. The label on the envelope said, "Weekend plans changed." That was the first cut. Then I moved to the accounts. First, her online courses, paid monthly from my card, canceled. Then her school app. I removed myself as the emergency contact. I'd filled that space when her real dad missed the form deadlines. When she had asthma in 6th grade and the school needed someone to call, it was always me. Not anymore. Spotify Premium. Gone. Netflix profile. Deleted. The password was mine to begin with. She'd asked me to sponsor her field trip form last week. I let it sit and signed on the table. It expired the next morning. I wasn't making a scene. I wasn't raising my voice. I was erasing my presence, one quiet detail at a time. Because that's what I was to them, background noise. So I became silence. The next few days passed without drama. Bella didn't notice the missing subscription until her playlist cut off mid-song. She shouted from her room, "Why's the family account gone?" I didn't respond. She texted me. No reply. Micah asked if I was still coming to his parent-teacher night. I told him to ask his mom. Lauren didn't bring it up. Not once. Either she noticed and chose to ignore it or she truly didn't care. I couldn't decide which was worse. Then came the rain. That Thursday, Bella stayed late for her club meeting. Normally, I'd pick her up. Always did. Always on time, even when she forgot to remind me. But I didn't show up. I knew her dad wouldn't. He never answered his phone past 5 p.m. And Lauren had a work meeting, one of those can't-miss kind that always fell when parenting duties came up. Bella walked home. 3 miles in the rain. No umbrella. Her sneakers were soaked. When she came in, she tracked water across the hardwood. Said nothing. Didn't look at me. Just went upstairs. I sat in the kitchen, sipping coffee, listening to the wet squeak of her shoes fade up the stairs. She didn't ask why I didn't come, because deep down she knew. Or maybe she was waiting to see if I'd apologize. I didn't, and I didn't feel guilty. I felt clear. That's what no one tells you. The moment clarity replaces resentment, you stop negotiating your worth. She forgot to submit her medical clearance for the regional finals. I used to manage that. The deadline passed. She didn't compete. I watched her storm around the house, snapping at Lauren. Why didn't someone remind me? Lauren said, I thought Troy would handle it. I was in the next room, heard every word. Bella replied, why would he? I told him he wasn't family. And there it was. I smiled. The machine I'd kept humming for years was sputtering. Delays, missed deadlines, unpaid fees, forgotten pickups, small gears slipping out of place. And I wasn't lifting a finger. It wasn't revenge. It was revelation. Bella still hadn't said anything to me about the cruise, but I noticed her checking the counter every morning, looking for a new envelope, hoping maybe it was just a mistake. That's how dependent they were on me. They couldn't imagine a world where I stopped serving them. Couldn't picture the man who always showed up deciding not to. They thought reliability was weakness. That silence was approval. They thought wrong. I watched the bills pile on the fridge. School fundraisers, band fees, tooth extraction for Micah. Nothing in my name anymore. Lauren started noticing. Did you cancel the orthodontist transfer? Yes. A pause. Why? I shrugged. Didn't think I had the right. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. She was starting to see the pattern, starting to feel the cold air where warmth used to be. I wasn't angry. I was precise. Each cancellation wasn't an act of revenge. It was the removal of illusion. The stripping away of the idea that I was obligated to serve a family that refused to claim me. Bella missed her deadline for the art scholarship. She'd begged me to help write the application months ago. I had the drafts on my laptop. I deleted them. She asked Lauren, did Troy submit it? Lauren said, I don't know. Ask him. Bella didn't, and I didn't offer. Micah asked one night, are we still doing our camping trip this summer? I looked at him. He was trying not to sound scared. That's up to your mom. He nodded, slowly, and walked away. That was the part one hadn't expected. Micah's confusion, his quiet distance. He wasn't cruel like his sister. He just didn't know how to exist in a house where the man who used to make things work had stepped back. And Lauren? She was beginning to feel it in the details. The gas tank that stayed low. The groceries that didn't restock. The trash bin that didn't make it to the curb on Tuesdays. Things she never noticed before because I handled them. Now I didn't. And when she asked, did you forget the trash again? I answered simply, no, I just didn't take it out. She blinked, didn't respond, because what could she say? The scaffolding had stepped back. And now the house was groaning under its own weight. Let it groan. Let it collapse if it must. I would not hold up walls that housed my erasure. The call came on a Sunday. Lauren was folding laundry on the couch. Micah was glued to his tablet. And I was outside, trimming the hedges no one noticed unless they were overgrown. When I came in, her face was pale, phone still in hand, her thumb trembling over the screen like she wanted to erase what she just heard. It was him, she said quietly. I didn't ask who. I knew. Her ex Bella and Micah's father. The ghost we only heard from when money was mentioned or guilt got the better of him. The man who vanished when preschool tuition was due and reappeared just in time for Christmas with a too expensive gift wrapped in convenience store paper. He's upset, she added. Thinks you're poisoning Bella against him. I laughed. Out loud. Short. Bitter. Interesting theory, considering I haven't spoken to her in 2 weeks. Lauren didn't reply. Then she said it. He's threatening legal action. The words dropped like bricks on my chest. Not because I feared the courtroom. I didn't. I feared what it meant about Lauren. That she brought his voice into our home, gave it space, let it grow tall enough to threaten me from the shadows. I stood still. She kept talking. He says she's been distant, cold, and that ever since you started stepping back, she's changed. He wants a custody review. Says he's ready to be involved again. I stared at her. After 9 years. She looked down. 9 years of me showing up, paying, providing, listening. 9 years of back-to-school nights and late-night drives and field trips he didn't know existed. Now he wanted back in. I said, let him try. Lauren blinked. Let him go to court. Let him list his contributions. I'll list mine. We'll compare notes. We'll see who shows up and who sends text messages like birthday cards. That night, I opened the drawer with the tax folders, pulled out every receipt I'd saved: therapy sessions, hospital bills, braces, music camps, laptops, backpacks, inhalers, fees for AP exams and college tours. All of it, stacked like bricks. A paper record of what fatherhood looks like when it's lived, not claimed. I didn't have her blood. I had her calendar. I didn't share her last name. I shared her emergencies. That's what matters. Our lawyer told us Bella would be asked to testify, not officially but informally. Conversation. Her chance to weigh in on who had shown up. I didn't attend the meeting. Didn't need to. I sat on the porch the day it happened. Coffee in hand. Watching the clouds crawl like slow thoughts. Lauren came home first. Her eyes were unreadable. Then Bella came out of the car. She didn't look at me. Walked past like she always did. Later that night, she sat at the kitchen table with her laptop open. College applications. I passed through on my way to the garage, but stopped when I saw her pause. She sat there, staring at a blank field on the screen. Father's name. She looked over at me. For the first time in weeks, her eyes searched mine. Not with anger. Not with teenage fire. Just unsure. I didn't speak. She said, "Should I put yours?" My chest went still. Not proud. Not grateful. Just quiet. I said, "It's up to you." She nodded. Slowly. And typed, "Troy Miller." Then she hit return. No smile. No speech. No thank you. Just a small exhale. Like she'd been holding something in for years. I walked away before the moment could ruin itself. That was the real hearing. Not in the lawyer's office. Not in front of the judge. That blank box on the screen, that was the courtroom. And I didn't win custody. I earned presence. Days later, the lawyer called. Said the father had withdrawn the claim. Couldn't provide financials. Had no consistent address. Said something about not wanting to disrupt the family dynamic. He'd never been part of it. But now he had a name for what he lost: irrelevance. Bella didn't mention it. Neither did Lauren. But something shifted. Bella started eating at the table again. Didn't talk much. But she didn't smirk. She didn't stab. And sometimes, she looked at me like I wasn't just a figure behind a checkbook. Micah noticed it too. One evening, he asked if I'd help him with his science project. I said yes. He smiled. Lauren came home late that night. Saw the model volcano drying on the counter. Saw the two of us silent, content. She said nothing. But I watched her eyes flicker. Guilt? Regret? Couldn't tell. The next weekend, Bella left her phone on the kitchen counter. The screen lit up with a message. Dad called. Didn't pick up. I didn't touch it. She came back in, saw me near it. Didn't panic. Just looked at the message. Then at me. I said, "You going to call him back?" She shrugged. Maybe. That was enough. I wasn't competing anymore. You can't compete with absence. You can only outlast it. And that's what I had done. Not by fighting. but by enduring. The next form she filled out asked for emergency contacts. I got the email. You've been added as primary guardian. No speech, just the update. She left for school the next morning with her earbuds in, toast in hand, backpack swinging. At the door, she paused. Thanks for the volcano thing, she said. I nodded. You're welcome. She didn't say Dad. Didn't need to. I heard it anyway. Not in her voice, in her trust. And that was more permanent than blood. Bella left for college in Tennessee the same way she'd always left rooms, without goodbye. Her ride honked from the driveway, and she flew down the stairs in a storm of duffel bags, earbuds, and last-minute texts. Lauren stood on the porch with coffee and a forced smile. Micah leaned against the railing, silent. I stayed inside. I watched her from the window as she climbed into the car. She didn't look back. But 3 hours later, my phone buzzed. A photo. Her dorm. Polaroids pinned to the wall. A caption. Settled in. I stared at the screen for a long time. Didn't reply. She sent another one the next week. Her in a hoodie. Autumn leaves in the background. Cheeks pink with cold. Campus is gorgeous. Sometimes. She signed off, love you. Sometimes not. Sometimes she called me Dad. Sometimes just Troy. And I accepted it. Because that was the new agreement. She didn't owe me affection. She owed me truth. And truth came in strange forms. She once texted me, do you remember the formula for molarity? A month later, how do you know when to change brake pads? I answered both without fanfare. That was how she spoke now through requests for help. Not apologies. Not thanks. But help is how people admit they still believe in you. And Lauren? She watched it all from across the room. The way Bella reached out to me now, small, quiet, but real. The way Micah still hovered when I was fixing something, just to be near me. She never said it, but I could feel it in the way she lingered longer in the doorways. The way she didn't challenge me anymore when I refused to pick up after her son. The way she looked at me during commercials and didn't ask if I was okay. Because she knew the answer. I was tired. Not the kind of tired that goes away with sleep. The kind that comes from loving people who mistake endurance for weakness. Who believe your silence means you don't hurt. Who drain your soul and call it love. It took me years to admit this house never respected me. They appreciated what I did, sure. The same way you appreciate plumbing or heat in the winter. Useful, but not seen. And love without respect. It leaves bruises no one notices. I thought I could survive it. Thought if I gave enough, worked enough, waited enough, one day they'd say, we see you. They didn't. Not until I stopped. Not until the machine broke and the comfort drained from their lives like heat from a dying fire. Only then did they realize the warmth had a source. And it wasn't unconditional. Lauren once asked, after a long silence between us, do you think things are better now? I didn't answer. Because better isn't a word I use anymore. Not when it comes to family. There's only truthful or not. And now it's truthful. Bella sends postcards sometimes. Little scraps of paper with mountains or sunsets. Her handwriting is messy. She signs them, B. She never says thanks. But she keeps writing. That's her version of trying. I take it. Micah started calling me Troy instead of Mom's husband. I'll take that too. Lauren and I don't fight. We don't kiss either. We move like ghosts through the same rooms, brushing shoulders but never touching. Some nights we sit on the same couch watching different shows on our phones. She used to talk during commercials. Now she scrolls. I once asked her, why didn't you say something that night? She didn't pretend not to know which night. She said, I thought you could handle it. Handle it. As if my pain was a storm shelter, buried, reinforced, made for damage. I said, that's the problem. And we never spoke of it again. Because that's what this house became. A place where you don't speak of things that matter. Just patch the holes and keep the lights on. But I've learned something. Being a stepfather isn't about being noble. It's about being willing to bleed for people who never stop checking the bandages for weakness. And the mistake isn't the bleeding. It's assuming they'll notice. They don't. Until you stop. So I did. Now, when people ask if I have kids, I say, one daughter in college. Smart as hell. Kind when it counts. Stubborn like her mother. Or maybe like me. I don't tell them the rest. I don't tell them about the years of invisibility, or the way her laughter once broke me in half over a dinner table. That part belongs to me. That's the tax I paid for believing love was enough. So I'll ask you now, not as a man looking for pity, but as a man who spent a decade in the trenches of a house built on someone else's blood. Was I wrong? Was I wrong to demand to be seen? Was I wrong to stop paying for love with silence? Was I wrong to let it break? Or was I just the only one honest enough to admit it was already broken? You tell me, because I've said enough. And silence is all I ever had. But it's mine now. Finally. Quietly. Mine.